Comic. Comic.
Yes, indeed, it is showtime. It's Comic Book Radio. This is episode 34. I am your host, Peter Cimetti, and my guest today, not tonight, it's very sunny out. It's not the usual 9 o'clock Eastern. It's 1 p.m. Eastern today. My guest is Crystal McGHEE. We're going to be talking about myths, legends, dungeons, dragons, knights, and teddy bears, and how they all seem to relate to each other in terms of what Crystal is working on. Thank you guys for joining us, and I want to just say hello to those in the chat. We had a couple messages before, but now StreamYard's erased them. Oh well. Sark, what's up? Says hail and bow. Jonas is here. What's up, Jonas or Jonas? Is it Jonas or Jonas? Let me know. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us today. Seer of All That Is Obvious says, is this a line for Taylor Swift tickets? You just missed them. Squall Shades is very sunny. Glad to make the stream. Yeah, it's a nice, beautiful day today. 85 over here with no humidity. It's great. And 85 Fahrenheit. If it was 85 Celsius, we'd have a lot of problems. A lot. All right. So before we get Crystal on here, let's get a little bit of music going in the background. Here we go. There it is. And without further ado, the woman of the hour, Crystal McGHEE.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, Crystal. Hey. First time on the show. I love it. Other than calling in and being in the chat, of course. Exactly. Wonderful. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. I love the show, so it's cool. And I like comics, so it works out.
All right, awesome. Let's see. I'm going to pump up your mic volume. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So, like I said before when we started, I wanted to talk about myths, legends, dungeons, and dragons, and teddy bears, and all that good stuff, because it relates to your book. And now the book I'm talking about, for those that don't know, Crystal's got a book out called The Good Knight, and issue 2, there you are. Look at that. Let me put you on full screen so people could see. So issue 1 is done.
Yeah, it's pretty nifty. It's magazine size. Yeah.
That's great. Magazine size, wow.
Good to go.
Big magazine size.
I know.
So issue 2 now is funding, and that is on Indiegogo, correct? So is it on anywhere else?
Yep.
I know people nowadays it's on somewhere else too. Oh, is there a delay? There might be a delay.
Just on 1 second. So yeah, it is on Indiegogo. It's only there. Don't have it anywhere else right now.
Okay, very nice. See, and we were getting a little bit of robo-wing with Crystal, unfortunately. I'd love to have you on camera if we can, but we'll see. Let's see, Agent Zero, what's up? Alejandro's here too.
Problem.
Squall Shade's asking, is her comic being put out by Alterna? No, Crystal, all the guests on Comic Book Radio, for the most part, are not Alterna Comics creators. These are various creators. They're doing their own thing, and I want to talk to them about it. Jaded One, what's up, Jaded One? All right, so you've got The Good Knight #2 out on Indiegogo. Now, if you guys want to check it out, the link is in the description of the show. I really hope there isn't too much of a delay tonight. There seems to be a little bit of a delay. I don't know if you can pick up on that, Crystal.
I haven't picked up on the delay.
Oh, okay. I'm picking up on like a 3-second delay.
Okay,
hopefully hopefully that disappears. So what I'll do is I'll slow myself down a bit. This way there's time for you to respond properly. And then it'll all sync up.
Gotcha.
There we go. All right. So, what's The Good Knight about? And you do touch upon myths and legends and whatnot within it. What's the book about? And then also, why are you so inspired by that subject matter?
So, I guess to kind of get into that, I kind of have to say what I do for a living and whatnot. But I'm a script writer and script doctor. And what script writers do, script doctors, they basically polish the scripts and get them nice and pristine, good to go. Sometimes, and a lot of times actually, we will get scripts that are in a very unfinished state, and we have to go in and fix those. And the Writers Guild requires that we get like 30%, that we have make 30% changes to the script, but they always kind of jip you out of that some way or another. So a lot of times you go uncredited.
Wait a second. Wait, did I just hear that you're supposed to make 30% of the script is supposed to be changed?
Percent of the changes made by you in order to get credit. But a lot of times what they'll do to make sure that you don't get credit is bring in another script doctor to change some of the stuff that you did, and they just kind of keep bringing in more people until one guy at the end actually gets credit. So that's kind of how that goes. So I was kind of
that poor script. I picture the script to be like a human being on the operating table, and
yes.
You know, the various doctors are like, "All right, now I'm gonna do a cut. Wait a second, you don't cut it the whole way. Don't cut it the whole way. I'm gonna finish cutting where you cut, and then you're just about to remove like the spleen or something, and you're like, oh no, not yet. I gotta have this other guy come over, pick up that spleen, and then take it out." You know, and then at the end of the day, just the one surgeon gets credit for that.
Yes, so that is literally how that goes. And I also do a lot of ghostwriting, and I do that for films, movies.
Wow,
TV.
So you're an unsung hero.
I've done it for not as much literary, but I have done it for comic books for other big companies. So a lot of these comic writers, they have like 6 different titles that they're on. And depending on, you know, some people produce their ideas a little bit slower, or they're a little bit slower at not particularly writing their scripts, but maybe polishing them. And so then they will bring in a ghostwriter to write their comics for them and kind of get them caught up.
Wow.
Yep. And so I kind of got to a point where I've been doing this for a while, and I don't really have anything in my portfolio to really show for it. So I was at a point in about...
Is there anything, now before you continue, is there anything that you've worked on that people out there might be familiar with?
Nothing that I can say with NDAs in place.
Oh my Lord! What a beautiful.
Besides,
industry.
like some short films and stuff that I've done in what little free time I do have, I can't like really talk about it.
I'm so sad for you, Crystal. Is there anything you can hint at, even in a roundabout way? Is there, okay, how about this? Is there anything that anything you've worked on that someone has been in that they might be familiar with that actor or anything like that? Is that even possible? I'm gonna get Crystal in so much trouble.
I can kind of skirt that a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Let's hear some of that.
So there is a very talented actress named Raylan Castor, and my dad is a fight choreographer. He's also trained with a lot of wrestlers, old school wrestlers back in the day.
Nice.
Real big fitness guy. So he does that. What I can tell you, actually, which I can talk about, there was a Lou Ferrigno interview at a comic convention, and I was actually a camera operator on that. And I got to meet Lou Ferrigno and everything. So that was pretty cool.
Was he nice to you? I don't know if you've heard the Art T. Bear story with Lou Ferrigno.
I've heard. But he was super nice to me and super cool. And I did that for a Roku channel. But that's kind of like, that's what I'm saying. It's hard to, like, even family, they'll ask, so what are you doing? And it's like, I can't really, like...
Wow. You might as well just... I mean, there's people in the CIA that could talk about more things than you, Crystal.
Because, I mean, I got into this, like, right out of high school. I won a writing competition for one of the big TV companies, TV production companies. And after winning that, I just kind of went right into it. and I just kind of, got into the flow of it. And before I knew it, I realized there's really no
Man, oh
portfolio
man.
or really anything that
Is-
I can say that's mine. So in 2017, I kind of started to shift, and I was like, I have ideas, and I've had this idea for the Good Night since I was in fourth grade.
Oh, that's great.
And
Something that's
yeah,
entirely your own, something you can actually put your name on and discuss.
exactly.
That's wonderful. Good.
And it's funny because in fourth grade, I was kind of just chilling with a friend of mine in class, and I asked her, like, you're pretty good at drawing. You want to draw this little idea that I have? And so she did these kind of like storyboard format. And what she drew and what we kind of communicated back then is basically the end result. Like a lot of the actual layout of what we printed in issue one is almost the exact same. So the vision's been pretty strong for me for a long time, but I was like, you know what? It's time to just do it. And so I decided to actually do it. So in 2018, I got an artist, and it's not the final artist, who's Francisco Narde for the first issue and all the other subsequent issues that we're coming out with. But this artist, I won't say his name, but we're doing pretty well.
There's so
We
many
had
secrets,
pretty much
Crystal.
we had pretty much almost the entire first issue done. And I had like a gut feeling that something was up with Sir Alexander's character design. And he's the Knight of the Round Table who turns into a teddy bear.
Okay.
And I thought, this just looks a little too familiar. And I spend a lot of time online, right? So I was like, let me do some research. And I found that it appeared that he swiped the art for Sir Alexander from another individual on ArtStation. And I approached him about it, and I was like, hey, I found this. This is the only character design that I've kind of dived into. All the others are wholly original, but this one's not. So like, what's up with that? And this was like basically like 100% swipe. Like there was no difference.
For the
no
teddy bear?
Yeah, for the teddy bear. And it's like, he's like the main focus of the
what
entire
was it
story.
about? What was because I'll tell you for complete disclosure, we had a book in 2018 or 19, I forget. It's called The Fear Diaries, and that was just a one shot. It was a double-sized one shot, and it had to do with like this teddy bear defending its owner in the nightmare world. But then there's also a book called The Stuff of Legend that I believe was out by Third World Studios. I don't know if it's still in or out there and being published, and it's sort of similar to the one that we published, and I wasn't too thrilled about that. And what I mean is that they put that out before we put that out, and afterwards when But the thing with teddy bears is that teddy bears relatively all look the same for the most part. So what about the teddy bear here is so proprietary to yours?
So what makes mine a little bit different is that he was a knight of King Arthur's court. He's kind of taking over the role of the Green Knight, who kind of retrieves the Grail to help King Arthur's ailing health. And he has a very like little, I don't know if you call it, like kind of like trying to think, like a cute little scarf that he wears.
Like an ascot?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
It's more like a cape. It's very flowy, but it wraps around like a scarf because he's so tiny. But the main difference here is that this is a man who's gotten turned into what appears to be a teddy bear, and this is a permanent change, and there's no going back. Yeah. So his friend, who is Danish royalty, kind of learned that he acquired the Grail, stole it from him because he wanted immortality. Our take on the Grail is that it was literally in Jesus Christ's hands and in the hands of his disciples. And that has given it, just like when the woman who approaches Jesus and touches him is healed, that basically it will do the same type of thing for somebody who gets their hands on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's good intentions, and then there's bad intentions of trying to become immortal, just by hanging on to it. So our little cute teddy bear fellow is struggling with issues of, I used to be a man, I used to do all this stuff and the Knight's Code, and he's struggling with it, but he also has to put that aside for his new master in present day and try to protect him from stuff that's going on, while aspects of his past, like King Arthur, he does get, so our teddy bear gets shot back in time, shot back forward in time.
And does he still have the strength of a man?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
he's like a little Rey Mysterio swinging around with his, sword and
Okay.
whatnot. So he's,
Right.
He's has full strength, full capabilities that way. But King Arthur is still alive. He's just like in a magical sleep. So he has aspects of his past that start coming into present day and affecting his retrieval of his new master that he's kind of tasked with taking care of.
All right. Wow. Man, so, well, I want to just say that is very different from the story we published. I think it's different, too, from the stuff of legend. But, okay, so you touched upon a lot of different things here with that subject matter. The thing I want to ask you about is in terms of what you're doing on here. Now, you're the writer, right? You're not making the art. Are you lettering the book?
No, the letterer is Eric Weathers. As far as the book, I just write, organize everybody, rally the troops. I will give my artists like layouts and stuff like that, and a lot of like concepts for outfits and stuff like that. Because originally, I was going to go to college.
Do you sketch anything out for them at all, or is it all descriptive?
So yeah, I do sketch stuff out. So, and as far as like because Queen Belladonna, who's our main bad guy, she has like a new outfit every issue, or sometimes a new outfit throughout the issue. And I was going to go to school for fashion design. I didn't end up obviously going in that direction, but I still have that itch.
So you would have gotten robbed for credit there too.
Yeah, exactly. Just different, that's funny. But yeah, so I come up with all of her outfits and he'll, put it on the page. So we're super collaborative. And he does very, it's interesting. It's a mixed media approach with this comic. So he'll start out on canvas. He'll get all that there. There's charcoals, acrylics. He'll use watercolors sometimes. And then we'll kind of bring it over to Photoshop. And either he or I, kind of depending on time purposes, if we can, we'll both work on it in Photoshop. If not, I will vice versa. But then he kind of cleans it up there, and we kind of start putting together what you see on the page.
Oh, okay, very nice. Now, all right, going back to what your subject matter is about here. You're touching upon, obviously, the whole story seems to circle and revolve around Arthurian legend. What about Arthurian legend are you drawn to?
So I've been just like big into Arthurian legend for a while. I think it's just the different aspects. So like the morality of it. So there's like, the Knight's Code. You also have these relationships.
Chivalry and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And the relationships between King Arthur and his knights and all that kind of goes into that. It's like interpersonal relationships. And it's a lot of family values in some regards. So it's like this is like a father figure, King Arthur. And then here's these knights that are kind of like his pupils. And it has a lot of similarities to Christianity that I love. And so it's all of those aspects together and just how things go down, the magic. You have Merlin, the Lady of the Lake.
The moral and philosophical nature of it all.
Exactly. And so
Now,
it's just cool to dive into that.
so for you, when it comes to, and nowadays, I've said this before in a previous show or two, nowadays I have a tough time fully committing to the words legend and myth. And it revolves around a lot of things that many people would go, well, how could you possibly think that is anything other than legend or myth? And the thing is because the more and more research I do and looking into things, there's so many nuggets and kernels of truth to so much of it that I have
Yeah.
a hard time dismissing it entirely as works of fiction,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So with Arthurian legend, as much as I would hate to use that kind of a word because it does bring about that this is a story and it doesn't have any basis in reality and no one has ever lived that has been these people. There's a ton of stuff about King Arthur and all the various knights and various people that can be traced back
Inspirations,
to people that he was either based off of, stories that things that kind of seem to ring true or parallel to what had occurred. What's your take on that? Do you believe that there was truly a King Arthur, or at least someone that it was based off of, or is it all legend and made up?
So I think just like how a perfect example is like Santa Claus, like Saint Nick was a real person, but the Santa Claus that you see is, just kind of like a commercialization. And I think that as far as Arthurian lore is concerned, I do think there are strong inspirations or bases for characters that you see in Arthurian lore, especially King Arthur. There's a lot of different things that people point to of he was this aspect is inspired by this guy, inspired by this guy. So I think that parts of it are definitely inspired.
And in terms of the research done and whatnot, how much, because obviously this is going to be a work of fiction, but in terms of your research and everything done on that level, have you really taken some deep dives into King Arthur and Camelot?
Yes, dude, I have.
Anything interesting that really stood out to you?
So as far as what really stands out to me, so like the tale of the Green Knight is definitely very interesting one as far as like some moral dilemmas that go on. And I'm terrible at names, but it was the Knight Gawain, I believe is how you say it. There, I hear so many different ways that it's said, his name, so I'm never sure. But he basically goes. He has to go essentially through these tests, and it's just interesting because there's a knight's code, but there's some things that he has to do in these tests that kind of stretch into that morally gray area, and kind of diving into that particularly has been very interesting. And as far as our story goes, when Sir Alexander gets pushed forward in time, Merlin, in order to kind of preserve Camelot, because they're at war with Morgana and Mordred, and they're kind of losing, and King Arthur's ailing, which is why they needed the Grail. Merlin basically freezes Camelot, and he puts Arthur into a deep sleep and kind of freezes everything. So everybody, the battles are all halted until Sir Alexander eventually, at some point, their last hope will bring the Grail back to them.
Very interesting. All right. Now, have you always been interested in this? Have you always been interested in King Arthur and Camelot and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, and Beowulf too. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I just love it, and I am a Christian, and so I love the sort of like biblical similarities to a lot of this stuff too. And if you notice, we do in our title, it says Paradise Lost. If you've read the John Milton book, that'll kind of give you some hints of what else is going to kind of come in this issue, as well as future issues as well. So if you don't know what Paradise Lost is, it's a book by John Milton. And it kind of shows Lucifer's side of his kind of banishing from heaven, and how I guess you could say he kind of reacts to that. Just very, it's like his side of the story, but it's just kind of like you're not really sympathizing with him, but you can kind of see where he's coming from, if you know what I mean. It's just kind of like, and it's interesting to see both sides of something, and that is like I would say historical fiction. But it is
on that level too, talking about things like Lucifer, Satan, and things like that. I always now this is my understanding of hell, and I was raised Catholic, so I was literally having it beaten into me. Hell is a bad place where bad people go, and they spend a long time there, getting tortured and hurt and all these other things day in and day out. They'll rip your organs out, they'll put you on fire, and then you heal up nice for the next day where it happens again. Forever and ever, all eternity. Now, to me, if you deserve to go to hell, I don't see how that's a bad thing for Lucifer to do, for the devil to do. Like, isn't that like, oh, that's good. Doesn't it kind of bring comfort that that like the worst people in the world in all of history will spend an eternity suffering? So I look at that and I'm like, God kind of made Lucifer do a very important job. He's almost got too much power.
It's the concept, because God gives you free will, and you can do with it what you want. And so it's interesting to see someone else's kind of perspective on why they're kind of doing that. It might not be the right decision, but it's interesting to see where people come from, because it gives you a better understanding as far as, talking with people or just kind of seeing, I've just walked.
If I was in God's shoes, I wouldn't want someone I didn't really trust to do this very important job of making sure all the bad people were punished for all eternity. Mm-hmm. So I always kind of struggled with that a bit, because I was like, yeah, he is damned to hell, and that's where he's going to be, but he's kind of making sure all the bad people are punished. And even if in later interpretations or whatever, it turns into, he kind of enjoys dishing out that punishment, I'm still kind of like, I can't say I got problems with that. Like, you don't want to go to hell, don't do things that send you to hell.
And it's
otherwise you're going to meet Lucifer and all of his little demon friends are going to have fun with you.
No,
and that kind of, over the course of my life, has brought me a little solace. You always meet some people, you're like, you know what? They'll be taken care of in the afterlife. I don't need to do this right now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a big picture thing too, because there's so much that we can't even begin to understand, that sometimes you just kind of have to like put that out there, like, we don't have all of the answers, but it just is what it is.
You have almost none of the answers if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Right. So I do want to mention one thing. I don't want to rain on your parade here, but Squall Shade brought this up. Stretch goals is spelled wrong, so make sure to go in there and put that T in there.
No worries.
Yeah, so there you go. Just to shore it up. Sometimes the best of writers. Yeah, we all need a good pair of eyes. So thank you, Squall Shade, for that. But yeah, okay. So I know we're at a very odd point to take a break here. But I promise you, we're not going to come back and divulge and discuss the morality of the devil and God and whatnot. But we'll be back in just a little bit. We're going to take a quick break for about a minute, show you guys some trailers and whatnot. You're watching Comic Book Radio with me, Peter Cimetti, and my guest today is Crystal McGHEE. This is episode 34. We'll be back in a minute. Don't go anywhere. See you guys soon.
as though I have conquered death. I live death every day. I am surrounded by it, smothered by it. Look at you now. He would have everlasting life. You seek to defy death, yet you cannot even defy sleep. And how alike sleep is to death. It is a patent death.
All right, we're back. You're watching Comic Book Radio. My guest today is Crystal McGHEE, and she's got her book out on Indiegogo called The Good Night. Issue 2 right now is funding. We were talking about myths, legends, the morality of the devil and God and all that good stuff. But now we're going to take a hard turn away from that. Is that okay with you, Crystal?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm putting the link here on the chat. If you guys want to join, feel free to pop in one at a time. You can have any questions or comments for Crystal, and please feel free to join. All right. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what it's like in terms of moving from a script writer to a comic book writer, because there are different things. So you talked earlier about how you can't talk about any of the things you've helped write.
Yes.
So I don't have anything to really reference. But you do have something to reference, and you don't have to spill the beans about it. But what have you noticed are some of the biggest differences and similarities between script writing for a film and script writing for a comic?
So I've noticed, as far as comics go, they play out more like an episode of TV, right? Like you have, here's the first episode. Here's what's going on. You might have a cliffhanger at the end of that episode. It goes right into the next. And that's kind of the approach that I take with it. But then also I add in the show and don't just go telling everybody everything. It is a visual medium. So I feel like the less text, the better. The artwork and the action that's happening kind of speaks for itself. And a great example of that is issue 1 of The Ultimates by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch. And that they have like these cool aerial battles, right? And all of that stuff when you're going into Captain America's backstory. And then you kind of, okay, Captain America's back, next issue. Here's how he's adjusting in modern times. And so I feel like if you're having these large-scale battles and all of this, kind of let the artwork speak for itself. Put only what you need for character development and for people to understand the story. Because you don't want them to get bogged down by text, but you don't also want to have too little text. So it's a little bit of a balance.
Yeah, you want to make sure that, and there's some books that take it so literally with the show don't tell that they don't really tell much of a story. You know, they forget that it's just kind of about eliminating redundancy and eliminating the constant need to use exposition as opposed to understanding and yielding your tool visually to put in a story there that instead of explaining it. You know, so if there's a real cool scene that you could play out as a writer and you don't understand that should be shown, it says a lot about you as a writer.
And it depends on your art style too, because maybe if your I can't speak today. I've been low on coffee all day. But if if your art style is more like, let's say more like cubism, it's more simplistic, not in a bad way, but just very, just kind of more abstract, then that would probably require more text depending on what you're going for in that scene. Like maybe it's more of a scene that's up for interpretation, or your art style at some points it might benefit to actually in that section, maybe have some more, just so people can kind of get a sense of what's going on and not get turned off by it. When it's not
Yeah.
the art style, but it's just that they need to know a little bit more to get kind of on board.
Yeah, you got to have the marriage of the two. You know, if you have them fighting each other or working simultaneously, like I said, with the redundancy of doing the same thing, like you have the scene being described and written out, you know, but they could just visually see it. Then you have the bad writing. But what I really love is when writers utilize juxtaposition with what's occurring.
Yes.
So they have a separate kind of thing that's either like detailing a flashback, a parallel, a moment, some kind of inner thought, some kind of insight into the story.
Foreshadowing is amazing.
Yeah.
Done right as well.
Then you can have the visual being played out while you also have the text that you could read and get a full sense of what's occurring.
Exactly.
Squall Shade wants to know, can we play your commercial? Yeah, let's play your trailer. So let's do that right now. Let's play your trailer right here. Before I do, does your trailer contain any kind of music that might get us struck down?
It does have music, but it's royalty free.
Oh, okay. Yeah, every intro of the show, this show gets demonetized immediately, and I don't care anymore.
No
for the
worries,
5
no.
cents
It's
that YouTube
royalty
wants to throw
free
me.
as
I just
long-
more, yeah.
Yeah, as
care
long
about it
as the
getting
artist
blocked.
is credited, which they are per their terms. It's all good.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so we'll play this. Let's see here. Oh, I'm muted.
There you go.
There you are, back on camera. Very nice
No
trailer.
worries.
And
Yeah, thanks.
Justin says, heavy metal Teddy.
Oh,
Doc
dude,
Mask
yes.
has
I
rock
love
on.
heavy metal, so that's that's perfect.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know it's got a teddy bear in there, but it doesn't seem necessarily
It
that
is
it's
a mature title, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say. It seems like a mature title.
Because we have we have a giant woodland. We call it a woodland giant, but it gets basically decapitated, as you can see. So
Okay, hold on. There we are.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of blood and guts. So just because there's a teddy bear there, don't let it fool you.
Oh boy.
Because
Oh
in
boy.
the second issue in particular, because we go into a lot of different mystical creatures and stuff, and we have a double page spread in issue 2, which is the one that's funding now on Indiegogo, and that has nymphs, and it's a full page spread. We don't show a lot of spicy content like that. It's nothing that you wouldn't see at an art museum. You know, it's very tastefully done, but it is there. So just something to be aware of. You really won't have anything like that until later on in the series. But it's all beneficial to the story, and there's a purpose for it as far as showing people's way of life and stuff like that. You know.
Very nice.
Think National Geographic, guys.
Okay, so yeah, if you're looking at the book and thinking you're gonna buy this for your kids, I guess I'm gonna have to say think twice. I don't want to discourage anybody,
if you think about it, it's like an R-rated film for sure, as far as like content, but it's not going past that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would have read it when I was a kid. I wouldn't have had a problem with it, but
me too.
You know, so.
Good for parents to know, though.
Yeah, if you're a parent, you know, you do what you got to do. You know your kids, you know what's appropriate for them, what they can handle. So just think about it in terms of that. There was something earlier. Buddha Bear had mentioned a comment here. It says, does make you wonder why are all benevolent kings legends, but we know all the good and all the faults of some of the worst kings and leaders. So I was touching upon earlier. This was a comment from earlier about maybe 15 minutes ago. Touching upon something that we were saying at the time, mostly involving legend and myth and the little kernels of truth to all of that. And these really these leaders that are fondly remembered, the exploits of them, it does turn into these larger than life legends. But the ones that we're not too fond of, they don't really get the legendary treatment.
Exactly.
Which is,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing, too, is that even though there are tons of legends, obviously, about horrible, monstrous creatures, people, whatever it may be, they're usually set up in a way that's like a word of warning, right?
Yeah.
Like don't follow that path. Don't go down that road.
Cautionary tale, yeah.
Cautionary tale. So, yeah, let's see. Dr. Mask wants to know, now we need to know your favorite metal bands.
Ooh, dude. So...
Can you give me the top 3 or 5?
I would say, this is so tricky because I have like 10 or 15 different bands that come to mind. But I absolutely love Obituary. And their song, it's just, there's so many good ones.
Yeah, you don't have to. Tough. That's the thing. Anytime someone says favorite, don't zero in on favorite. I'm gonna let you do 3 or 5. Don't zero in on the one.
Because I love a lot of death metal, particularly, and so Sabaton is another good one. That's more like power, but that's almost every song Sabaton puts out is amazing. Other than that, like, it's so hard because then I'm thinking albums and I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Oh, it's difficult.
Man, I'm more like classic metal, like Iron Maiden and Queensryche and Megadeth.
Gotcha.
And, you know,
Megadeth is good though.
Mostly pre-90s Metallica.
Manowar.
Yeah. You know, Molly
I
Hatchet.
like Manowar too. I got you.
You know.
I actually have
Dio,
like a
good grief. Yeah, totally. Dio.
Yes,
Elf.
Dio is good. Yes, Dio.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff. But Eric the Guapo enjoys Dave Matthews Band. You know, they're pretty hard.
Oh, dude.
You know, yeah, they really get
that's
intense.
Hilarious, dude.
That violin, man, it's wild. Wild. You never heard a more intense violin than in Dave Matthews Band.
Oh, that's
maybe
funny.
Yo-Yo Ma. Maybe.
That is great.
But, you know. All right. So, man, oh, man. Okay, so, yeah, Doc Mask loves Sabaton. Obituary is no joke. Huge Manowar fan.
Yes. See, that's what's up. They don't make good stuff like that now. They don't make good songs like that. And I also love like I'm trying to think here. But what was I going to say? Yeah, Wu-Tang is another great band that I love. Not metal, but still good. And you're not going to find the good genre music anymore. Unless
if they're not playing it on the radio,
unless the old guys are still around, or maybe there's a couple up and comers, but you're not going to get the good stuff just because of how the industry is or how just things are going. You know, it's hard.
It's similar across the board, right? To all entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, because
sure.
the gatekeepers and tastemakers are even more in play now, which is so strange because we had all the kinds of stuff, especially in the record industry, with like payola and all that. It seemed like there was more, there's more quality and diversity of music when we had the mafia running things. Same things with comic books.
Oh yeah, somebody said Alice Cooper. Yeah, he's still making good stuff. Yeah.
I
went to a concert of his a couple years back. It was good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So we got about 12 minutes or so left. If you guys do want to join the show, I'm putting the StreamYard link in there again. If you've got a question or comment,
ask the hard questions, guys. I'm here.
If you want to even come on and talk a little bit of metal with Crystal, go for it.
That's great, dude.
Man, oh man.
I have like so many jackets. Like I have the patch jackets, and I have multiple. I have like 5 right now that I've been building up, just adding patches. So
very nice.
I love it.
Man, you know what it is though? What sucks is that I like a whole variety of music. I absolutely love Dean Martin. You know, so I love all this stuff, but it's like they're not putting Dean Martin on a patch. You know, I gotta make one illegally maybe. They're not putting the Rat Pack on a patch that I could just wear on like a Boss leather jacket.
Dude, now that would be cool though. They need to hop on that Rat Pack one.
They should.
I can find something to add. You know, just sneak it.
With Frank, Dean, and Sammy at the very least. You know, Joey Bishop. You know, whatever. I'm not much of a Joey Bishop fan. And then there was like a couple other guys, whatever. They were kind of in and out of it. Eddie Fisher and whatever. But you know, I would love those guys. I really love and enjoy those guys. But then I also love like crazy AC/DC and all those other guys too. So I've got a very eclectic taste of music. But I think most people kind of do. You know, what other stuff other than metal do you love? You mentioned Wu-Tang.
Yeah, so Wu-Tang. I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and Wu-Tang is amazing. I've been to a couple of their concerts early on, but it's
nice.
It's great. I just love rap now is different than it used to be, because if you look at Wu-Tang, they're describing their struggles and things they're going with, but it's very masterfully done. And now rap is just like it's almost like posers, and they just kind of, they haven't really gone through anything, it feels like. So they're
everyone feels like they're emulating. They're not authentic, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
if they came out with authentic songs now, and it doesn't even, because things change, things get easier or harder, and your life might not be as hard as it was in a different time period, but there's still stuff that you could dive into, like anxiety, other stuff like that, social norms. I don't know. You could do something, and it's just sad to act like you're still hard, and then you go to like see people in public, and then somebody steps up to you, and you're like, oh. You're totally back. Like, don't act like you're a tough guy and say that you're not going to back down, and then some dude comes up to you in public. Like, you kind of have to walk the walk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
no,
so
I totally get what you're saying.
It's a little fake when you see that guy in public. He's like, oh, I don't want any trouble, I'm sorry. And it's like that you're acting like you're hardcore.
Yeah. It's so
disingenuous.
Strange. Yeah, you know, and many of the rappers of yore obviously have kind of fallen into that comfort zone and have accepted it, but it is always funny when they're still like, no man, I'm still from the streets. It's like, I've been from the streets in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. They look a little different.
Yeah. You know, and it's strange. It's strange, but yeah, it's like that across the board with so many things. That lack of authenticity. You know, like we talked about before with comics, but obviously even too with actors. You know, you read a lot of backstory about actors from, I don't know, let's say their heyday was the 80s and 90s, and you read a lot of how they grew up and everything else, and some of it is horrible. Yeah. You're like, no wonder why they have like this scope of emotion that they can work
the
from.
Alcoholism, all the other stuff.
Yeah, like they live through stuff. You know, and I'm not saying go out there and have an awful life, but you know, you have to have life experience if you're gonna experience life, you know, and on the screen. And how are you gonna bring apart, you know, put that emotion out there, and make it feel real when they, you know, a lot of these people out there nowadays, they're manufactured, they're like pop stars, you know, and all that stuff is just whatever the label, the studio, whatever wants them to be, and then because they're not authentic, they're not really valuable in that sense anymore. So then the next one comes along, and so on and so forth, you know.
And there was a little bit more of like mystery too, because now there's social media, so it's like, for example, like if Tom Cruise, he's doing pretty good, right, at the box office. People generally have a positive, you know, response to Tom Cruise. And notice how he's not on social media as much unless it's to promote his film, right? Like he's putting out, oh, go see Mission Impossible out now. And you see other younger celebrities, especially like just like Olivia Rodrigo, or you see all these other people that put their business on social media, and then it kind of sours the water of their brand, or more specifically their persona. So personas used to be intact back in the day, and now the persona isn't a persona, it's just you posting stuff online, so it gets tricky.
Yeah, it is. It's
essentially
a
you're selling
it
yourself, but it's as a brand too.
Yeah,
and that can be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eric, you missed the whole first half of the show. You know, the show is only an hour long. We only have so much to do. I suggest watching the replay. We discussed Crystal's book a lot, but we will discuss it the last 5 or 6 minutes or so. And so anyway, with your comic book being out and about, you got issue 1 done. Issue 2 right now is funding. Let's bring that up right here. Yeah. So issue 2 right now is funding. This has got 29 days left. Now, did this just start, or was this like a 45 or 60-day campaign?
This is 60 days. So this is the extension. So another 30 added. Yeah.
All right, very nice. So you're at 1,921. Your fixed goal here is $5,000. You got 44 backers on board. I'm just going to refresh. Hopefully,
and all of the artwork is completely done for this issue. My artist is actually working on the art for issue 4 now. He's actually finished issue 3, now moving on to 4. And we plan on having 12 issues in total of The Good Night. So that's kind of what we're planning with that. It might end up being shorter, because depending on how things go, we might kind of, I guess you could say, consolidate and kind of push certain books together. So
I know you mentioned it here, but how many books are in total that you have planned to do on this series?
12. They're fully scripted, so you don't have to worry about us kind of as we go, like coming up with stuff. I know that happens sometimes, but it's fully scripted. We already have the end fully laid out, so it's a full journey that's put together for you here.
Very
and
nice.
Yes, I do have a YouTube channel. It's just my first and last name.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know you had one. I'm sorry. I'll put a link for that inside the description of the show.
I'm still building it up, so
okay. Well, what better way to build it up than to have it linked to, you know, when you're doing an interview? So yeah, I'll make sure I get that in there when the show is done. The last thing I want to ask you, so we've covered all kinds of topics today, but I really want to close it on the comic thing here. So, what what about comic books draws you to comic books? Who influenced you? What kind of books did you really love? Which books in particular?
That's a good one.
Once you read them, you were like, I want to make them. I don't just want to read them. I want to make them.
Yeah. So I would say I started out getting into comics through my dad. He's a big time collector, always has been since he was a kid. It's something his dad kind of introduced him to as well. And I leaned more towards Marvel and independent books. And Ninja Turtles was the original run, a big inspiration as far as the hyper violence. But then there's like these cute little turtles, right? And everything, their brotherhood and relationship with their essentially adopted father, Master Splinter. And so I did lean more, I liked Marvel, but I did kind of lean more into independent as I kind of went along, and stuff from Image, early Pit, stuff like that. But I've always loved Conan the Barbarian. That is a big influence of mine. Also, Heavy Metal Magazine. I've been
now, the
reading
comics
that,
of Conan
that.
And the books, or just the comics?
Just the comics. Yeah.
Wow.
And Heavy Metal Mag was one of my faves. I love the animated film that they put out. But I collect as many issues of that as I can. I still collect it, even though it's kind of sad what's kind of happened with them as far as turning on their fans.
That's
and
the
other
sad part
other
about,
things.
Yeah. I know.
But I just love
it,
how people explore. Yeah, it's just the facts. But
I've had
love
heavy metal editors
talking
explore. Crap about me over the years.
Oh,
I was like,
I've seen that, and that's
I don't
sad.
even know you.
That's sad.
We've
yeah.
never even interacted.
Because I'm very big on, if you're going to say something to somebody like that, you should be able to, if you were in person, say that as well. And a lot of people don't do that. It's just something that like my parents taught. So if I say something to somebody, I will say that to them in person too. It's just how it goes.
Well, I have a theory too, because Eccentric says Heavy Metal Mag went woke. Now, a lot of people say, you know, what is it? Get woke, go broke, right? I have a theory that it's actually reverse. I have a theory that it's you went broke, so now you go woke. Because what it is you're turning on the audience.
It could be a strategy,
you know. So you're like, we lost the audience, what we have. We don't know how the hell to get them back or grow it, you know. So I guess we'll go for this audience. And then the way they do that is they crap all over their past audience, and they say, hey, you know, we like you guys now better. You know, once you want to approach
us. So sad, because early comics, I would go to San Diego Comic-Con, like the early days of it, and just any comic convention in general, and you would actually be able to talk to writers and say, hey, what'd you think about this or that? And you can't really have access to writers in a respectful way, obviously, like at conventions and stuff like that. Just because it's like really quick now. Okay, sign it. No, basically you just sign and go. And used to, you just sit around talking, and there's a huge line piling up because they're still talking to people, you know. So it's just kind of sucks that you can't have that access to the writer or artist. And then what access you do have is them on Twitter or Facebook saying like wild stuff about you, or if you don't like this, don't buy my book. And it's like, that's not even remotely like how
madness.
Because you can have differing opinions, and that's what makes people unique and not trapped in an echo chamber, by talking to people, you know, different backgrounds, different life experiences. And it's, you know, just it's life.
Exactly. You know, but man, oh man. All right, so we're not going to be able to dive into any of that, but the show is wrapping up here. Al, say it to my face. Say it to my I can't tell you how many conventions I've gone to where people are like, I know how much crap you've talked about me, and you can't even look at me as I pass your table.
Exactly.
All
so
right.
shady.
All right. I don't know.
Sad.
I don't know. I'm not
Very
an
sad.
intimidating fella, I think, but some people.
I think sometimes
They,
people just say it because others are saying it and they want to fit in and be cool. So then
that's
they
something.
do it,
All right, so we'll give
but
another
it's
2
not how
minutes
they
to this.
actually feel.
Eric wants 1 more hour. I can't
Oh,
go 1
no.
more hour, but because Crystal's touching a nerve upon here for me with some of this subject
no.
matter, but it's okay. But yeah, I was never much for peer pressure as a kid. I never was someone that was like, well, you gotta do it because the whole group.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. You could do whatever you want. I'm gonna do whatever I
Exactly.
want. And you do whatever it is you're gonna do. Whether it's you're gonna smoke, you're gonna drink, you're gonna listen to this music, you're gonna watch that movie, whatever. I don't care. I'm gonna go do the thing I'm gonna do. And if you want to join me, cool. If you don't, cool. I was always comfortable with that. But I know certain people, especially as kids and growing up or whatever, you're more susceptible to peer pressure because you want to fit in. I never really cared much to fit in. But as an adult, it was really shocking to me to see how many people are still susceptible to peer pressure and still want to fit in for some reason. With people who really don't know them and they don't really know them either, and then vice versa, and they don't really care much for them, but they still have to fit in. They still want to fit in. It's crazy to me.
It's easier to try to fit in than it is to have your own opinions and viewpoints and take a stance on those from time to time.
Crazy.
Because then you actually have something to lose, and sometimes it's easier to just kind of go with the flow.
And I used to be more vocal on Twitter, but now I'm like, so much of it's a waste of time for me, but I'll say whatever I think when someone presses me about it. But the thing is, like, with the way that the world is nowadays, and then especially within the creative side of it, you would think, and I ignorantly thought this way when I was growing up, that creative people were so much more against the grain, so much more counterculture. You were anti-establishment. You were individuals,
Yeah.
And then you get into the creative field and you're like, no, you guys are the same crap. You're just like opposite of what it, and then if you're like 99% on board with everything that they say, but that 1%, that one thing, they're like, you're all on the other side.
Oh no. I've noticed that, and that's especially bad in the filmmaking industry and just making TV in general. It's especially I hate saying the word toxic, but it's very toxic
it's like
in that regard
that they made up.
And it's that you exactly
That's
and
their
it's
buzzword.
like, just like that, it's like so you want to have a conversation and somebody has a differing viewpoint and you're like, well, I can kind of see that, but here's where I'm coming from, and then the room gets silent and they're all staring at you and you're like, it is what it is.
Yeah It's crazy. Yeah. Absolutely crazy. Well, Crystal, it's been a joy talking to you today for an hour. I hope you have a ton of success with your book. Here's the Good Night number 2.
I appreciate it.
It's on Indiegogo right now. Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you for stopping by today. And thank you for having a day show, too. It's good to mix these up. Every now and then I get a day show, and then I have a night free. And I'm like, what do I do with myself? It's like go back to work. But it's like, it's a different kind of work. A little bit more energetic when it's the day. For obvious reasons. I haven't had a whole long list of people to disappoint and have disappointed me. But I don't have to do that right now. I have you on here, and it's been great. Thank you so much, Crystal. Really appreciate it. I appreciate it. You think I'm doing you a favor. You're doing me a favor. Thank you for being on here today. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Everybody in the chat, I appreciate you guys too. Everybody, if you've missed the show, like, Shane, hey, what's up? Like Shane just did, go back and rewatch it. It was a good show. Crystal talks about her book, about a whole bunch of other things, and it's just like an hour or so. And you can have it on in the background. That's the good part about this. All right, everyone, take it easy. Have a wonderful day. I'm not going to be back tonight. It's not a doubleheader kind of a day, but tomorrow, what do I got? Tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern, I'll have Narwhal on, the man known as Narwhal.
He's so awesome.
Yeah, he's an interesting fella. Thursday, I've got Hojo. I've got not Howard Johnson, but he is Howard, and he does the mythicals. So he'll be on Thursday, and then that's 9 o'clock as well. And then Friday, I've got Justin Belmont on from Belmont Comics. And then Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern. These are all Eastern times. I've got Ethan Van Sciver on the show. So we'll be talking about Cyber Frog then. But we've got all kinds of guests coming up on Comic Book Radio. Most of this month is booked. Most of August is booked. So we've got a lot of shows to get to. Crystal, thank you so much. And once again, The Good Night is on Indiegogo. Go check it out if you haven't had a chance to yet. The link is in the description of the show. If you enjoyed the show, hit like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. If you didn't enjoy the show, give it a thumbs down. Whatever, it's cool. You know, you do your thing. I don't care as long as you're here and you're actively participating. Everyone, take it easy. Have a wonderful day. And Crystal McGHEE, you have a wonderful day too. Thank you very much, Crystal.
Later, guys.